The Nintendo 64 is one of the first big multiplayer consoles. It was the first console I ever owned, so I obviously have a sweet spot for it. And the thing I maybe like the most about it is how good and bad some of my games look on the console. This game works perfectly fine, even though it's definitely seen better days. But I still play it all the time, don't get me wrong. And then this game looks like I just bought it, partly because I did just buy it a few months ago, but it still looks like it's brand new, even though it came out the better part of 20 years ago. This is probably one of my favorite games, Super Mario 64. I think it's my favorite, one, because it's single player. It's one of the few single player games on the console. And two, it just has so much replayability. I mean, you can see me, I'm probably playing this game most nights over my newer gaming consoles. 007, basically the father of first-person shooters. I guess maybe other than Doom, but at least multiplayer first-person shooters. Definitely the father of them. Like a lot of the other games I talked about, really doesn't hold up to today's standards, but it's still fun to go back to every once in a while. Again, I played this so much with my friends growing up. This was one of the first games I ever really owned. The Mario parties. I mean, where do I even start with these games? They were literally the games that lost me friendships growing up. And this first Mario Party came out in 1998, and I'm pretty sure everybody's played a Mario Party by this point. But again, way better with 4 players, not as good with 1. I think you're starting to sense a theme here with this console. Basically, if you don't have friends, you're not going to have fun playing this console. The second one came out a year later and is arguably one of the best on the N64. It's definitely my favorite. I don't know if you can tell. I definitely kept the best handle of it. I think it looks the best out of the 3. And then Mario Party 3, I never really owned this game as a kid, so I bought it years later, and because of it, I don't really have that much of a connection to it. But again, still nice to have, still love to own. I guess I really never talked about it to this point, but the controller design is pretty weird too, honestly. It does work for a lot of the games, but some of the games like 007 I just showed you, it's really awkward. This control stick was pretty revolutionary for the time. Most consoles before it used this D-pad. By the way, this D-pad is useless on the N64. Just take my word for it. And it's a pretty awkward hold, but after a while you kind of get used to it. Although, again, this side of the controller is pretty much unused if you wanted to. If you didn't want to use it, you literally don't have to use it. And then we have the Game Shark, which isn't a game in and of itself, but it's a little add-on. As you see, you just plop the little cartridge on there, and you can put cheats into your games. It has support for almost every N64 game out there. And then we have the only non-gray cartridge I have in my collection, Donkey Kong 64. I mean, I honestly like the cartridge just because of how Donkey Kong looks. I mean, he just looks so serious for no reason. But in all seriousness, the game was a lot of fun, but kind of long for my taste, but definitely still love it, and it looks cool in your collection, or at least I feel like it does, although it definitely is showing its wear and tear on the side here. And then we have Mario Kart 64, which is one of my favorite Mario Karts of all time. It was only the second Mario Kart ever, the first one in 3D. Like I said with Mario Kart, I feel like everyone's played a Mario Kart game. I don't know how many people have played this one. I know I have, and I know it means a lot to me, but I can definitely see why people steer away from this one, no pun intended. And of course, this is Super Smash Bros. Basically a fighting game with Nintendo characters. It doesn't really sound like that cool of an idea, but this was probably one of the first video games I ever played. I can't tell you how much time I played with my siblings and with my friends. Doesn't hold up exactly the way I remember it from when I was a kid. I guess you could say that about a lot of games, but it still has a special place in my heart. Then we have the Holy Grail. I did save the best for last on purpose. It's The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And if you notice the tint on the cartridge here, it's also the same tint of the controller. This is really the only one I use, really, ever, when I play the N64, even though I have multiple controllers. It's just such a fun game, The Legend of Zelda was. It was just such an open game. I think it was the best game in the series. And that's kind of a running theme on the N64 as well, but just a lot to that game. Very long, but very fun. Nostalgia aside, I still think this console has a lot to offer, especially because most of the games have 4-player support. And I think some of them are some of the most fun I've really had playing multiplayer games ever.